G'day everybody, Daniel here from GI Energy. Today we're talking about how much money you can save with solar panels for your business. First things first, there's obviously a huge amount of variables here to determine how much money you can save. That being said, I want to give you some details of what those variables are and then try and give you some specifics so that there's some value in this video for people that are exploring commercial solar panels. So the variables really, the first thing is obviously how much energy you're using and then how you use that power. To give you two contrasting examples, you could look at a motel and get its load profile up on your screen, and you'd find that it would peak in the morning when people are up and about using hot water and other appliances. Typically then people on holiday go out for the day and then come back early evening or late afternoon, start using things like aircon and again potentially cooking appliances and hot water and things like that. And so it'll peak again in the evening and then go down again overnight. That means that if you're producing solar panels, solar power with no batteries, your solar load profile, or consumption profile I should say, really kicks off as soon as the sun rises, but it's from sort of 8 till 4, or you could say even 9 till 3 is where it's mostly concentrated. So in a motel, when people are out during the day, that's when most of your solar is going to get produced. You can rely on feed-in credits, and you can also obviously install batteries for those type of scenarios, but that's one load profile that wouldn't utilize pure solar production as well as somebody else. So on another contrasting example, let's look at a retail store. Let's say this particular retail store is open Monday through till Sunday, and they open at 9 a.m. and close at 5. That load profile then looks like this, from 9 o'clock in the morning through till 5 o'clock in the afternoon. So it will ramp up in the morning quite as people come in to prepare the store for opening. It will sit pretty steady throughout the day, and then it will dip back down in the afternoon as things like aircon stop working as hard and the store winds down. That load profile is probably better suited to a typical solar only setup because the solar energy is going to be produced in the same time window as they're using energy. So let's say we had 200 kilowatt hours of use per 24 hours in a motel versus 200 kilowatt hours of use per 24 hours in a retail store. Let's now say we installed a 39 kilowatt system, which is a popular size commercial solar system for small commercial. In both of those scenarios, the retail store may utilize 90%, maybe more than 90% of the energy that's produced without the use of any batteries. A motel, on the other hand, might only get to about 40% utilization. So if there are no batteries and the rate per kilowatt hour that they're being charged is identical, the return on investment over here in the retail store is going to be so much better than in the motel. That being said, I don't want to say that we don't install for motels, because we definitely do. It is quite a good use case for a motel for other reasons. And you can obviously install batteries and rely on feed-in tariffs somewhat to give you a good return on investment. But those are two contrasting load profiles. That's probably the number one determining factor for your return on investment. Secondly, it will depend on how much energy you use, not only because the more you use, the higher your bill is just on that volume, but once you use over a certain threshold, it's usually 100,000 kilowatt hours per year, which is about 273 kilowatt hours per day. You then go on to what's called a CNI tariff, or a large business tariff. When you go into a large business tariff, your bill structure changes. If you're on a small tariff, you typically have a kilowatt hour charge and a small service fee, and that's it. A CNI account will have a kilowatt hour charge, and then it will have lots of ancillary and network charges, demand charges, and fixed costs. The overall value of that bill, or the overall cost of that bill, will be concentrated across all those different line items, whereas with the smaller bill, it's concentrated almost all into kilowatt hour charges. So a solar system will produce energy and will reduce your bill with the kilowatt hour charges only. It's not easy to quantify how the solar energy will reduce demand charges without batteries, and it won't reduce fixed costs. And the fixed cost portion on a CNI bill is a lot more than it is on a small business bill. So typically, if you're using less than 100,000 kilowatt hours per annum and you install a solar system, automatically that tends to mean that your return on investment is going to be quicker than someone who's using less power. That's on a very basic level. When you look at a CNI bill, there's more things that you can do in order to manipulate tariffs and the way that you use energy to reduce it further. So it's more difficult and complex to get a really, really good return on investment on a C&I bill compared to a small tariff bill, but it's still doable. In terms of the range of how much money you can save, can be anything from returning your complete outlay in as little as 1.8 years for some of the sites that we've installed, all the way up to some we've seen at 10 years. And for all those reasons we've just discussed, plus install costs obviously, so if it's a more complex install, it drives the return on investment up. Those are the main key indicators of how quickly you'll get your money back. In terms of actual dollar savings, it's obviously really hard to give you a number without knowing more about the business, but you can save, if on a sort of worst case scenario for that type of motel load profile or something similar, you can usually get, with solar only, you can usually still get to about 35% overall bill saving pretty easily. If you've got a different type of load profile, we gave the example of a retail store, you can get to 80% without any smoke or mirrors, and that's probably quite realistic still, even given the fixed cost portion. Then, if you want to get to higher savings for any of those load profiles, there's lots more things that you can do other than just solar. So overall energy management and a holistic approach to your solar and or battery system is really what you should be looking at to maximize your savings. So what I mean by that is, depending on your use, usually for larger systems only, you can manipulate the wholesale market and install a solar and battery system, sell energy back to the grid when it's worth lots of money, draw it from the grid when it's worth next to nothing, automate that process so that you're maximizing your benefit, and it can actually even become a revenue driver for your business doing it that way. Also, another consideration is future-proofing your system. Lots of people now are integrating things like electrical vehicle charging stations that use a lot of power. You need to make sure that you're firstly have the supplied load for those appliances, and then also are correctly subsidizing that load with solar and battery. So setting up software that will send energy where it needs to go at the right time, at the right cost, is really crucial for the long-term overhead management for your company. So we can install software and hardware that understands when to send energy to your electric vehicles, when to use it, when to sell it back to the grid, and then when you've got solar, battery, and grid in the mix, you can then combine all three to get a really positive payback. That's becoming more and more important. The last thing that will give you different savings is tariff optimization. So something else that we would look at is, how is your tariff structured? Are you on the right tariff? Can you change tariffs before or after your solar and battery system is installed? That alone can save you an absolute fortune. So you need someone that's going to look at the overall holistic approach, and I would say all of our customers that we're talking to, we're looking at long-term plans. So it might be that you install a solar system right now with a small battery, or maybe not even with a battery to start with. Let it run for a year, get the feedback, get the data, make sure you're comfortable. Then we might install more panels and batteries, and then there might be some additional energy management stuff going on as well. So it's that ongoing relationship that you want to look for in order to maximize your savings. Obviously, there's big subsidies available in Australia as well that help drive that cost down. We're very lucky here that there's subsidies that will cover 30% of the upfront cost in many cases, which obviously then make the system a lot more attractive. There's more info on those subsidies in other videos. This one we wanted to try and concentrate on painting a picture for how much money you can actually genuinely save. If you are wanting to look into it more carefully, I would say do your due diligence on the company that you're talking to. Make sure they're experienced, make sure they have the expertise, the case studies, the insurances, the trading history, the personnel, and all those other things that come with doing some real deep dive due diligence on the company. There's so many solar companies in Australia. Make sure you pick correctly, and make sure you choose someone credible that's going to do a good job for you. Do it once, do it right, and don't have to pay twice. Thanks for watching. If you'd like to get in touch, obviously we'd love to be of assistance to you further. If not, I hope you've got something out of this video, and maybe we'll speak to you one day down the line. Thank you.